Good evening, everybody, and welcome here to the fourth race of the season for the Fuel RaceTrackDesigns IndyCar Series. Had an off week last week, but we are ready to go back racing, and it's back-to-back not super speeders, but back-to-back speedway races as we are here tonight at the Homestead Miami Speedway. Seth Cole alongside of Sam Dyer. And Sam, a little bit of interesting top story we got coming into this race. The drivers getting a little bit of a curveball thrown at them as far as their setup tonight.
Yeah, there was a little bit of a complication that happened where now the drivers are actually running with more of a tighter setup. It was supposed to be the night setup, but we're actually racing in the daytime. So there's a little bit of complication there, but it's going to make the racing pretty close where there's going to be very difficult for the drivers to pass, but they're going to be right on top of each other.
So far in the three races we've run this season, two of them have been at speedways. We started the season at Motegi, 4 cautions there. The last speedway race we had 2 weeks ago at Michigan, only 1 caution. What side of the spectrum as far as cautions falling do you see in this race?
I think the first couple of laps is really going to show if we're going to have a caution fest or if it's going to be a good green flag run. Another place the places that's going to be tricky is going to be coming off turn number 2. We were notified that there's a pretty big bump on the high side of turn 2, which with these cars being side by side, there is a chance someone might get their car a little squirrely there. We might see some cautions. Another place that you could be seeing some accidents is actually getting onto pit road, getting off of the track and basically getting onto pit road is going to be probably one of the more difficult spots. That's where we've seen cars get involved in accidents before. That happened at Michigan, and we might be able to see it here again.
A couple of drivers trying to make some green flag pit stops in practice, so maybe they're expecting in the latter portions of this race we may go green for a good portion of the race. 134 laps, so it is going to take a little bit of time for this race to get going and be completed. So with that being said, we could potentially, especially with what we saw as far as racing and traffic with the setup these drivers have underneath them, we could end up seeing pretty spread out racing and more than likely a lot of the racing under the green flag.
Yeah, I mean, watching these guys during practice, their cars, arrow-wise, get very tight when they are right on top of each other, side by side. So when these cars are side by side, it is difficult for both the car on the high side and on the low side to keep it clean. It looks like they both just want to come together, and so that side draft is going to be very difficult for these machines when they're side by side on the start of this race.
Pole position captured by Jason Brophy, and of course, he wants to forget about what happened 2 weeks ago. He was leading the way there on the back straightaway on the final lap, got involved in a wreck when airborne, ended up finishing that race out in the 14th position. So certainly looking to bounce back here today. And another thing that we should talk about too, our top 3 in the point standings came into this race only separated by 2 points, but only 2 of them are in tonight's race.
Yeah, Welker was not able to make it to this race, but Andrew Wood and also our other driver of Nicholas Johnson, he's here. But Nicholas Johnson's going to be starting in the back, so he's got to travel through the whole entire pack to get up front, while Andrew Wood is starting in the top 6.
Also interesting that the only former winner from this season in the field is, as you just mentioned, Andrew Wood. Matt Hollaball, last week's winner, is not here, and neither is Mitch Welker. Green flags in the air, and we're racing at Homestead.
Brophy gets a fantastic start, but Will Roberts went nowhere, which that's the best thing that Brophy could be asking for. As we'll see how powerful the draft is here coming off of turn number 2. As it's not as big of a backstretch as we've seen at other tracks, not as big as Twin Ring or as Michigan, but we're going to have to see if anyone's able to really pull away off of these back and front stretch.
Really, with the limited amount of real estate you've got with these straightaways, I think we can safely say that a lot of the passing is going to take place more in the corners than on the straightaways.
Yeah, but I mean, based on practice when I was watching these cars, it's much better to pass the machine on the low side, but the high side has a little bit of strength to keep up for about 1 to 2 laps, and then the low side really gets by. So if you're going to make a move, pretty much you got 2 laps to get by.
All right, there with that pan shot of the drivers coming through 4. Just about all 3 lanes were being utilized there. Drivers on the low side, in the middle, and up against that wall. So I think we'll see a lot of that here too, with drivers trying to find clean air for their nose.
Clean air, of course, is necessary to really help these cars go around these corners. As a lot of cars, it seems like they're running right on top, right on the high side, close to the edge of the track.
Right down on the bottom is the fourth place car. That's Byron Daly in the 06 trying to make a move on Riley Thompson for the third position. Andrew Wood in fifth, riding, watching this battle, and it looked like for a moment we were going to have a battle for the lead between Brophy and Roberts, but now Roberts has kind of fallen back into what's going to be a three-man fight for second.
You know, a lot of these machines up here are looking for redemption. I mean, you got Jason Brophy, who almost won at Michigan on our last track. You got Will Roberts, who's looked very good up front for almost every single race, but has just found complications here and there. Riley Thompson's been up front almost all season long. So these are cars that these top three have just been up front all season long. I'm just wondering who out of these three could possibly get their first win.
For all three, you could kind of make a case of coulda, woulda, shoulda as far as them winning this season. For Brophy last time out at Michigan, for Will Roberts back at Motegi, and for Riley Thompson at Laguna Seca.
Just looking to see, and it looks like there was a car that went off. I was talking about turn 2. That's going to be the 12 machine of John Martin. He was the one who he spun it around off of turn 2. Luckily, no caution, but his race could be done.
And you can see that the left front wing is gone off the nose of that machine, so he made contact in some way with the front end of that race car. As we did have an exchange for second with all that going down, Riley Thompson has gotten around Will Roberts, and now Roberts looks in his rearview mirror, sees Byron Daly breathing down his neck.
Also, there being a battle for fifth right now with Liam Quinn and Scott Taylor being side by side. And these cars have been side by side for most of the race.
Scott Taylor coming off that podium finish back at Michigan, ran very strong there. And Liam Quinn was a guy that back at Michigan we were saying, can he make it on fuel? Can he make it on fuel? Obviously he couldn't in the end of that race, but he's definitely been one of those quiet drivers that kind of seems to pop up at the end of these races, and of course as well comes into this race running very well in the points, fourth in the standings. Now the thing about the points coming into this, we talked about the fact the top three, Welker and Johnston, and of course the points leader Andrew Wood, they were all separated by only 2 points. It's 19 points back till you get to the rest of the guys there that are up there in the standings. 19 back to Liam Quinn, 21 back to Bommersbach, 22 back to Cohen Evans. So you got a battle amongst the top three, and then you've got this nice little clump of drivers that are about 10-point separation from 5th on down to 11th, 12th position.
Yeah, I mean, all those guys, they just need one good win at a track and have the top three really have a bad race, and they're back in it. So, I mean, none of these guys are truly out of it. It's still a long season. We're only into, race 4 of the season. So, a lot of racing still left, and those guys that are behind can still catch up to the top three.
Right there, Will Roberts running right up against the wall through 1 and 2. Was able to get enough speed off of 2 to hold off Byron Daly for the third spot for the moment. But right now it looks like Daly really wants to make that inside line work. And boy, actually, Will Roberts may have found something there because he had some really good straightaway speed on the front stretch. And he's going to go to the outside of Riley Thompson, look for second.
They are thundering down into turn number 3. Will Roberts going to be going just in the middle line. Going to be trying to make a move now, pulling it up high. And yeah, he's getting a fantastic run as he is just getting closer and closer onto Thompson's bumper.
You mentioned before we came on the air about the way that it looks with drivers when they were testing the setup in traffic. Not able to get the clean air to the nose, they would get tight and kind of go up the track. So can we safely say that based on the setup here that this kind of a speedway race is going to be more about tires than it is about fuel?
Oh, definitely. I mean, for this, it's probably going to be about a 2-stop for fuel. Tires-wise, it's really up to the drivers. I mean, how well are you going to keep it? As we almost got a 3-wide battle for second.
Never thought I would use the 2 words slide job for IndyCars at Homestead, but that's technically what we just had a moment ago there with Will Roberts and Riley Thompson. And boy, this is quite a battle for the second position, and it may end up growing to have more competitors in it. Andrew Woods, Scott Taylor, Liam Quinn, they're going to start catching up to this group.
As Jason Brophy is just pulling away. I mean, this is the biggest lead we've seen a leader have on the back, basically on the front pack at any of the speedways so far. So Jason Brophy's really found something, or it's just the fact that these cars are side by side and they're losing time on the leader.
I was really surprised to see Brophy go up to the top of the board in qualifying, to be honest, because he wasn't really running real fast lap times in practice. I was looking at someone like Riley Thompson or maybe the 15 car uh, of Justin Morton. They were running top of the board in practice, but no, Brophy found something there when we got close to the end of practice, apparently, applied it in qualifying, and definitely has found that clean air to be very beneficial here as he's currently about 1.3 seconds ahead of this second place battle.
Yeah, I mean, the fast laps for qualifying really is just a 2 laps of if you can run as clean as possible. Was watch the lap times for these tires really drop off after about 3 laps. You go basically lose about half a second after those first 3 laps. So it was a surprise to see Brophy. He was one of the last people to qualify, and he just shot up to the top. Well, I was like, oh, well, Roberts probably has this in the bag to get the pole, and then Brophy steals it from him, and Brophy's just pulling away. A little update on someone that's in the back. Nicholas Johnston, he is now up to 16th, and he is still battling. It is so hard for him to move up. He has slowly been moving his way up, but it's so hard. Only lap 18, still a lot of racing left out of 134 laps. So he still has time to get up there, but it has been a struggle for him to get past all these cars.
Right now, he just made his way around Kite Bommersbach for the 14th position. And yeah, you look at the past 2 Speedway races, he finished runner-up at the season opener at Motegi and 6th last week. Oh, we got a spinner on the back straightaway. That's Bommersbach in the 1. Gonna bring out a caution.
That was the same exact spot that Martin spun around. There's a little bump right there that he hit, and your car just snaps right when you hit it wrong, and that is what happened to Bommersbach right there, giving us our first caution of the day.
Go back and see what happened. I just saw him heading down towards the infield grass, and I think that most of the damage happened when he tried to overcorrect and save it. A lot of damage on the front and back of that machine, and that is a driver that comes into this race running really well in the points, really could not afford a bad race today.
Yeah, but he was showing promise at Michigan. He was really looking comfortable and having a chance to have a good day, and today he looked like he possibly could have gotten at least a couple of points. Being in the middle, but slowly moving up, but slight overcorrection, and his race is done.
That is such a tough break there for Kite. I mean, he came into this race in the 5th position in points. And, you mentioned the fact of, if Wood or if Johnston had bad runs today, a lot of drivers would have been able to capitalize. And unfortunately, it looks like that is not going to be the case for Bommersbach, as he has taken that car behind the wall, I do believe. I don't see how that car is going to be able to continue with that front end damage. We're going to take a look here at the onboard of what he saw and just watch how the car gets light underneath him when he hits that bump that you were talking about off turn 2.
While we were looking at the replay, all the drivers came into the pits, and pretty much everyone got into the same position except for Will Roberts. Will Roberts lost a ton of time on pit road.
Now it's going to be interesting because when we initially went green, we were side by side double wide. With the IndyCar starts now for restarts, it will be single file. So it'll be interesting to see now, since, someone like Riley Thompson, Byron Daly there behind Brophy, they're going to have the choice of their lane going into turn 1. Be interesting to see if there's actually going to be a battle for the race lead now, or if Brophy's going to be able to pull away again.
Brophy got a fantastic start at the start of this race. I mean, he pulled away by at least a 5-car gap on everyone else right when the green hit. So I'm expecting him to get at least a 3 to 5-car gap again. A lot of these restarts, we've seen the leader just pull away from everyone else. And I think Riley Thompson really is one of the only cars I've seen stick with the leader. So if there's anyone that could do it, it'd probably be Thompson here at this restart.
We have put a new front wing onto the front of Kite Bommersbach's machine. The question is just how much damage was done internally to that car as far as how it's going to handle and how up to speed it's going to be. And another driver with a little bit of some issues here. An extended stay on pit road was Justin Morton in the 15. Both of them will remain on the lead lap, though. At this point, the only car out of the race is John Martin, who had that earlier incident off of 2.
As the pace car is looking like it's going to be pulling off this time around.
It'll be Brophy with the lead, Riley Thompson second, Byron Daly, Andrew Wood, and Scott Taylor's your top 5. And Brophy is going to go with the green. He's going to pull away by a pretty good margin going into 1.
Yeah, getting at about a 3-car length gap on Riley Thompson. Looks like the top 3 really got a good gap, but Andrew Wood did not get a good start. He is far behind compared to the leaders. And side by side, once again, it's going to be Scott Taylor and Liam Quinn. These two have stayed side by side pretty much all race long so far, as we are coming to 24 laps to go. 24 laps into the race.
And we've got a battle for second. Byron Daly on the bottom, Riley Thompson up top side. This going on about only 3 car lengths behind the leader now. Thompson's going to get the run off of 2. The two of them, Thompson and Daly, were able to utilize the gap that Brophy had gotten on them down the back straightaway to close it up, and we almost had a battle for the lead as a result.
What happened during our first start of the race was that we saw the battle for second heating up. They were side by side for so long that it allowed Brophy to just pull away. So I'm imagining that if Thompson and Daly just stay together in line, it's going to allow them to stay with Brophy. But once they get side by side, Brophy could be pulling away.
But if you're Daly, with the fact we've seen, a driver running behind another driver getting so tight, can you stay glued to the car in front of you to be able to utilize the draft?
And he's going to say no as he pulls down below. See if he's able to pull a slide job like we saw Will Roberts do earlier.
Looks like almost, at least for the moment, that might be the only way you can make a pass on the inside. You can pull just about even with the car on the top side through the center of the corner, but then that outside line gets a better exit off of either 2 or 4. Oh, actually, I changed my mind. Daly got a pretty good run off of turn 4 that time on the inside.
Got a huge run, and then also, if they're side by side entering the corner, Daly's going to have a better chance of getting in front of Thompson there in the middle of the corner.
Big save for Scott Taylor off of turn 2. I don't know if he hit that bump you were talking about or not, but that car drifted way up the track, almost into the wall. Andrew Wood was able to break away from him, and Liam Quinn almost was able to make a move with that loss of momentum for 5th, but Taylor hung on to it, still remains in the top 5 for the moment.
Still in the top 5. Riley Thompson is losing a little bit of ground. Daly, which is allowing Wood to come back into this, and with Wood coming in, it's pulling the rest of the top 5 with them.
Taylor, Liam Quinn back there. They're side by side again. Boy, this is the battle, to your point, that never seems to end. Those 2 purple and white cars seem to be side by side with each other just about every time we look at them.
But it seemed like when Wood's caught up to the top, to these 2 cars up here, it really gave Brophy a little bit of space, and he's pulling away again.
Will Roberts there in the 39, 30 of Robert Hall as well. You mentioned about Will Roberts losing a lot of spots on pit road. He's now worked his way up to 7th and trying to fight his way back up into the top 3, which is where he was running just before that caution came out.
Scott Taylor is going to be pulling it down off into the access road. Looks like he's going to be going into the pits.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on there. It didn't look like he hit the wall off of turn 2 when I went back to look at him, but maybe he did. I don't know if this is regularly scheduled or not.
I think it might have caused a little bit more damage than we initially thought.
I just noticed, I think there's a little bit of damage on the rear wing, perhaps. Maybe I was looking at a wrong angle, but like he might have had maybe a little bit of contact with the rear of that car, so he's going to fall more than likely at least 1 lap down. And I think now he's got to hope that this thing goes into a long green flag run, so that way everybody else is going to have to pit.
As he is pulled into the pits and has manually disconnected, so we'll have to wait and see if he's going to come back or if there's something else going on his side of things.
If that is him officially retiring out of the race, that is a tough break after coming off a third place run 2 weeks ago at Michigan. But up front, by just a little over a second, it is Jason Brophy leading the way. In the last timeouts 2 weeks ago's race at Michigan, Brophy, we mentioned, had that hardship on the final lap, but he ended up doing really good in that race, led 31 laps of the 156. And it definitely looks like, at least for right now, he is going to get most laps led in the season as far as a race is concerned, as he's so far led 34 of them.
So far 34, and possibly it's going to be 35 here with no one around him. You got the action that's starting to heat up for basically third, fourth, and fifth, and sixth all together. But what's really a cluster of cars is also a battle here for 14th, where we got Nicholas Johnston in the back battling it out, trying to get to 14th.
Yeah, he's back here with Cristobal Valenzuela. Ryan Heaters just up ahead as well. Mike Hurley in the 33. And right now, as you mentioned, Nicholas Johnston, kind of a man on a mission, trying to work his way up into the top 10. Are you surprised? I know he started at the back, but are you surprised, based off of how he's done on the previous Speedway races, that he hasn't worked his way any further up than where he is right now, currently in the 14th position?
Yeah, I kind of am, because he's been staying with this pack of cars since basically the drop of the green. He was battling out with Brommersbach as well. Oh, as the car goes off, that's going to be Mike Hurley who goes around. Same bump, same situation for the third time. A car has gotten on that bump and it has tossed their car onto the inside.
He did not bring it back up onto the racetrack, so no caution thrown. But boy, that turn two has been the incident maker all day long. It's gotten 3 drivers so far.
And as you'll see off of 2, you see where the dark gray is and where the light gray is. It's right above where the dark gray is of where the racing line basically is for these drivers. That's right where the bump is. So if a car hits that, there is a chance for them to do the same as that things we've been seeing where cars are just spinning around.
Is right there, and boy, that car got some air too when it hit the transition from the asphalt on the apron to the grass, and immediately that car to pit road. Now, the only reason that the incident with Bommersbach brought out a caution was that car came back up onto the racing surface. The other 2 incidents that we've had did not come back up towards the track, so that's why the caution wasn't thrown for them. And probably Jason Brophy pretty happy about that, because he continues to lead by over a full second. But boy, you got to think that's got to be in the back of all these drivers' minds now, because to me, it almost looks like the reactions of the 3 drivers that we've seen get involved with that turn 2, they don't expect it. And then it takes them by surprise, and that's why they overcorrect all of a sudden, or they try and save the car because they don't expect it's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, these drivers were notified during drivers' meeting right before the race started, was that there is this bump, that your car does not like this bump, and just be aware of it. And those 3 machines, they just hit the bump and they went for a ride, and their day is over.
Battle right here going on for the 3rd position, and one car that seems to have fallen off a little bit here on the long run. Oh boy,
they're going 3 wide. They're going 3 wide for 3rd, and luckily they survived. Going 3 wide here is, I mean, yes, you can run practically any line you want, but just the way that these cars get tight when you're side by side, going 3 wide is not the safest thing for everyone involved. Luckily, all 3 of those cars made it out.
And it looks like Thompson may be actually losing some ground here. He's fallen back to 5th place, so I don't know if this is a case of him using up a lot of his stuff when he was trying to reel in Brophy for the lead, or if he's just kind of laying back and conserving a bit here. Fastest car on track right now appears to actually be Will Roberts in the 39.
Will Roberts was showing a lot of speed earlier on, as he is in the middle of this front pack.
Quinn running the middle line. You got Thompson on the bottom, Will Roberts up on the top side, and we saw Roberts using the outside line back on the first green flag run before the first caution. He's migrated back up to that top side, and I think that's why he's been able to make up as much ground as he has when he restarted back around the 9th position.
Got these cluster of 4 cars just battling it out for 4th place. I'm surprised that we're not seeing Woods and Daly just moving, basically gapping this crew of 4. And the draft is probably helping them, but just seeing how close they are, it's incredible to see how fast these machines go and how close these drivers can get to one another.
Yeah, it's interesting to look here. If you look at this cluster of 4, they're running lap times somewhat similar to second and third place, even though they're battling side by
Whoa,
side.
no!
Oh
As
boy!
Will Roberts is going to get involved.
Robert Hall in the 30 as well.
Thought
Battle,
maybe.
it was about the 6th position that battle was going on.
And the way they were running, they were getting close to that bump. And that might have been what caused this, as Will Roberts is going to come slightly down. It's going to take an upper view to see what happened, as it looks like Will Roberts just got a little squirrely, which then it gave Robert Hall to just close in way faster than he expected.
Yeah.
And then they collected into one another.
I want to look at this from the helicopter cam because I almost wonder, Roberts had gotten some really good runs off the corner, and I almost wonder if he thought he had a good enough run to make a move to the inside of Liam Quinn, and the 30 of Robert Hall was there. Just coming off of 2. He gets a big run. Well, actually, no, he might have actually brushed the wall. Talking about the 39 of Roberts, and that might have what caused his car to dart left like that. And as he was coming to pit road, the car spun out on pit road entry right there. And he actually teleported the car to his pit stall. So that was a battle around the 6th position gone wrong between Robert Hall and Will Roberts. And yet another time this season where Will Roberts has been running up near the front, and all of a sudden something seems to happen to him. But if he can stay on the lead lap, I think he's fallen a lap down. But if he was able to stay on the lead lap, it's still early on in this thing, and I don't think he had a whole lot of damage. So I think he would have still been able to maybe a little bit be competitive.
Yeah, if he's able to stay in the lead lap, he can still be battling it out with the one machine who's still on the race. He's still on the lead lap, still racing, and is right up battling in the back of the pack, but is still battling with some of these cars.
With this caution coming out and 2 drivers that were up inside of the top 10 being involved, that actually moved Nicholas Johnston up to the 10th position. That's the highest he has run all day. So we'll see if he decides maybe to make this the point where he'll try charging to the front, but really haven't seen him making a lot of forward progression so far in this race. And kind of interesting too, nobody is coming to pit road here under this caution. Are they basically?
They all came in while we were looking at the review, and our biggest loser is going to be Andrew Wood, who came in 3rd and moved down to 6th.
Okay, yeah, you're right. I just noticed that they did come to pit road. I didn't notice that. That's my bad. So Jason Brophy is going to be the leader when we do get back green. Byron Daly still there in 2nd. Riley Thompson 3rd. Liam Quinn now up to 4th. Cohen Evans now in the 5th position. That's another driver that's up there in the point standings. Cohen coming into this race 6th in the standings so far. And then, as you mentioned, Andrew Wood in 6th. Eric Gonzalez is now up to 7th. Danny Roberts in 8th. Rodrigo Munoz and Nicholas Johnston right now is going to complete your top 10. Just an update on Will Roberts. He has fallen 3 laps down to the leaders. So I didn't think that car looked like it had a lot of damage there. It looked like the car that got the most damage was Robert Hall, but he's still on the lead lap. Will Roberts is not. And so Will Roberts may have effectively taken himself out of competing for this win. And I mean, boy, it has just been such a difficult season for that 39 car. Got wrecked while battling for the lead up at Motegi. He ended up, I think, being one of the drivers caught up in the pit road spin that took place on the first round of pit stops 2 weeks ago at Michigan. So his speedway luck has not been there at all.
But the one positive you can take away from this is that he does have the speed. So later on in the season, maybe even next week, he can still come back. It's going to be a very difficult comeback story for him to have, because with these bad spots that he's had these last two speedway races, he needs a good finish in these upcoming weeks.
Especially with the fact that at IndyCars, there's no chase, there's no playoffs, nothing like that. It's based off of the amount of points you accumulate during the season, and it's so much easier to pick up spots in the standings early on in the season when the points are close rather than later on in the season when everybody's so spread out. We are going green this time. Jason Brophy has dominated this race so far. He's been the control car on the last two restarts, and he's going to get another good one here.
Gets another great start. But I gotta say that 06 stayed, their pace was pretty similar, and we'll see what it looks like coming off the corner here.
Get a pretty good run down the back straightaway here is Byron Daly. He's going to stick it to the inside and try and make it clear through the center of three.
And there's that slide job as he moves up. We're going to see if Brophy's able to come down. As he not going to be able to do so, that's going to be the first lap led by a different driver.
Interesting, too, for Brophy, because it's the first challenge he's really had all day for the lead. So I was going to be interested to see if he had a car capable of making the pass back. There you see he does, and now Daly's going to stick it down there again. All of a sudden, we got them crossing each other over 2-3 times in a lap.
And with these two battling it out, it gives Riley Thompson a chance as Riley Thompson stays up high. And Brophy, is he going to make another move? As he does. And he's going to stay below. It looks like they're just swapping back and forth on each corner on who's going to be in what position. But each lap so far, as they're side by side, is Brophy and Daly. Daly's the one who's crossing the line.
While these guys are swapping back and forth for the lead, you got the same kind of a thing going on back for the fourth position between Liam Quinn and Cohen Evans. They've been crossing over each other the last couple of laps.
And Andrew Wood is adding on to that group right there, making it a three-car battle, going out for it for fourth place.
It's going to be Quinn holding on to the fourth position for the moment. As up front, Daly makes another move to the inside of Brophy. This time not going to be clear to try and move up for a slide job, though. I think Brophy's going to be able to get the run off the corner.
Brophy able to get the run and is now clear. But we're going to see if Daly's going to make another move. Doesn't look like there's just enough space there. And Brophy's going to get the run off turn number 2. I think he might be clear now and might be able to pull away. But that was a great battle to show that at the start of the runs, you can battle our leader.
Byron Daly, at the early portions of the initial start of this race, was one of the few guys that really kept it glued down to the white line on the inside going through the corners, and that may have given him a little bit of an idea of what he was able to do here against Brophy on this restart. But now he is going to fall about 2.5 car lengths back behind the 88. Brophy going to try and set sail again. Oh, not so fast. Daly closes the gap up again.
Daly trying to move up and trying to get up there, but a car that's really been moving well has got to be Andrew Wood as he moves up from 6th to 4th. And now his next target is going to be Riley Thompson.
Andrew Wood obviously has been really good this season at the speedways. He, of course, won the season opener at Motegi, and last week's race, he ended up leading the most laps, 53 of the 156 laps en route to a second-place finish. So definitely he's got good numbers at the speedway so far this season, and now trying to see if he can become the first multi-time winner on the year.
And he is the only car that has the chance to do it here at this race. Other cars that have been moving up very well is going to be Conan Evans, who had that great pit stop that allowed him to be up here up front. Nicholas Johnston, he's up to 8th, started 20th, and he's still battling it out as he is right on top of Danny Roberts, trying to get 7th position. And Eric Gonzalez, he's another car that started 15th, now up to 9th. A great run for him as he's in the top 10.
I know he had earlier issues, but you got to stay out there and pick up every point you possibly can. Kite Bommersbach right now in the 11th spot after they had to make the repair to the nose and everything. One of the drivers that got bit by turn 2, but has managed to pick up quite a number of positions since then by passing Scott Taylor and Mike Hurley, who have taken their cars behind the wall, and Will Roberts and Robert Hall, who were involved in the last caution.
Yeah, I think his ability to really put the car stay on the track and just tap that outside wall was much better than some of the guys that have been hitting the inside wall. As he was slowing down with spinning when when he had his caution and his wreck. It really saved his car, and he didn't have as much time on pit road as all the other guys had to do, which is allowing him to stay on the lead lap and still battle it out in 11th place.
Battle for second heating up. Riley Thompson utilizing that higher middle groove, trying to get the run on the back bumper of Byron Daly. And he's going to get a good run off of 2. Crosses to the inside. Battle for second is into 3.
They're side by side. I believe Daly's going to get the run off on the high side. But Thompson's still staying there. It looks like Thompson actually might get Daly here in turn number 1.
The one thing I'm really loving that I'm seeing here, we talked about the fact that the way the setup is, it's somewhat tight for these drivers. And so I would have thought they'd have a lot of difficulty running that top side and forcing the car to turn left off the corner. But a lot of drivers have been able to run that outside line and really get it straightened up down the straightaways, get good straightaway speed. So it looks like even though this setup may be a little bit difficult for these drivers as far as being able to make passes, they're definitely being able to run every lane of this track.
Yeah, it looks like, it's difficult for them to complete the passes while staying side by side is something that they like to be in. One of the cars that likes staying side by side is going to be Liam Quinn, still battling it out with Danny Roberts, as it seems like he's just picking whoever he wants to stay side by side with most of these runs. So now he's staying behind.
That's kind of hurt him, though, at the same time, because he's dropped back to the 7th position, and he restarted on the last restart up in 4th place. So he has lost 3 spots since we went back green. Another driver that is actually picking up some spots is Justin Morton, who had some early issues, came to pit road for an extended stay back on the first caution, and he has worked his way now into the top 10, trying to get by Nicholas Johnston for 9th.
Yeah, he's watching Johnston and Gonzalez just battling it out. They've been just going back and forth, trying to figure out who is going to be staying up here in this 8th position.
Battle here for the 6th position between Danny Roberts and Liam Quinn. Danny Roberts, if I'm not mistaken, I'd have to go back and kind of refresh my memory, but I'm pretty sure Danny Roberts was the one that wrecked with Connor Horn in the lead at Twin Ring Motegi. And so obviously, that was not a speedway race he wants to remember, but looking pretty good right now. And I think he's running some of the fastest lap times on track, even faster than the race leader.
Race leader is still Jason Brophy, who's pulling away with another 1.5 gap on 2nd and 3rd. As Brophy it seems like he's just got that great long run car, as he's able to just save his tires compared to everyone else who's staying side by side and battling it out constantly on these green flag runs.
And he definitely answered the question, too, of whether he had a car strong enough to pass someone back if they passed him, with the battling we saw between him and Byron Daly on that last restart. So I thought maybe a lot of it would just be contributed to the fact that he had clean air. He was able to pick his line into the corner, but there's no doubt about it. If we see him maybe get mired back to 3rd or 4th place in the closing stages of this race, I think he's still got a car strong enough to make passes and work his way back to the front.
Now, we're still not even at halfway, but we're getting close to the halfway marker. But I think these drivers are about a pit stop, maybe still 2 pit stops away from fully getting done with their fuel cycles. Do you still just lag behind, or are you going to try to battle and try to get front as fast as possible here?
I think that one thing that these drivers are going to be kind of putting in the back of their mind, the fact that they're probably going to be treating this race similar to a track as abrasive as maybe Atlanta or something, and the fact they're going to want to try and maybe short pit each other. Come to pit road, get those fresher tires, go out there and lay faster lap times, and maybe close up track position that way.
We also saw cars at Michigan trying to push it as far as they could on fuel and be saving as much fuel as possible. We could be seeing people possibly try to do one more pit stop if we stay green from here on out.
It's a great point. I mean, these guys have been out there so far 23 laps. So we went back green around, I think it was lap 47, 48, something like that. So, if we're able to project just how far they go on one tank of fuel here, we may be able to see if there is the possibility for drivers to save enough to have this upcoming pit stop maybe be their last. Riley Thompson continuing to try and get that second position. He's able to almost get alongside through the center of the corner, but then the car just gets tight on him coming off of two, not able to quite get to the left rear quarter panel or at least to the back bumper, but he seems to really be committed to that inside line, trying to make it work.
You know, I was redoing the math, and I believe we're a pit stop away from getting this over with. These cars can run about 50 to about 55 laps. Matters on how much fuel you're saving, but about 50 laps is as far as these cars can go. So I think we're just one pit stop away. Now it's a matter of fact of, do you want to push it as far as you can so you have fresher tires at the end? Or do you want a short pit? I mean, these tires seem to be lasting pretty... I mean, the tire model with these machines throughout the whole entire season is they really don't drop off on speed that much. It's only in the first couple of laps that you're getting the maximum amount of speed, and then they get into the spot where they're not losing anymore. So, you know, short pitting might not be the best option for some of these guys. It might be just pushed as far as you can go.
I mean, based off of what you're saying, if 50 laps is the furthest they can go with the last time everyone was on pit road, that puts the fuel window of them either being able to short pit to make it the rest of the way or going as far as they can. The pit stops are going to be somewhere between laps 84 to 97, somewhere in that range. So be interesting to see in that gap of about 13 laps when drivers decide they're going to come to pit road and make that final pit stop.
I think if I was racing, I'd probably push my fuel as far as I can. Just a theme that a lot of these drivers have been saying throughout the whole entire season is the car feels a lot better when it's a lot lighter. So pushing it as far as you can. You don't have to stay in pits as long as other drivers are going to be, and you'll be able to have a lighter car at the end of the race.
I think the driver right now, at least up in the top 5 that's run the highest line through the corners, is Cohen Evans in the 17. That last time by through 1 and 2, he was right up against the wall as he is starting to, little by little, close in on Andrew Wood for that 4th position.
You know, as we were talking about fuel strategy, a car that just moved up out of nowhere is Nicholas Johnston. He's up to 6th now.
Yes, he is. He's actually starting to close in on Andrew Wood. And remember, the two of them come into this race, 2 points separation in the standings. So this is kind of the battle within the battle, the points battle within the position battle between the 32 and the 28. As a matter of fact, Wood is in the wall and he's up in the air. Holy cow!
Wood with a horrific crash.
I'm not certain, but I think that car went in the air because I think there's an area where the safer barrier juts out, and I think he may have hit right where the safer barrier begins.
Conan Evans and Andrew Wood just tapped wheels, and it launched Wood into the wall, and then he went airborne from there on out.
That wreck just escalated in a hurry. My gracious. Andrew Wood, the points leader. This was a battle for the 4th position that went horribly wrong off of 4. A couple of guys that almost got pieces of that as well.
I mean, we were just talking about possibly the battle within the battle, and that ended very quick. Could have been the commentator's curse right there.
It very well might have. I was trying not to think about that possibility, but yeah, that is something that might possibly have been a thing. Boy, I want to go on board with, I believe it was the 09 of Rodrigo Munoz, because he got quite a view. I thought he was going to be the one to clobber the 32. Wonder that he didn't. Look and see what he saw, because I thought someone possibly was going to hit Andrew Wood when his car came back down to rest, and gracious. Fortunate that it was just a single car incident, but that is going to really play a huge factor into the point stands leaving today. I think that's going to maybe effectively give the points lead to Nicholas Johnston heading into Road Atlanta next week.
It really could. I mean, it's up to Johnston if he's going to have a clean rest of this race. Johnson just needs to stay clean, and he'll pretty much take the lead in points as the drivers just got done with their pit stops. Brophy continuing to stay front, and Riley Thompson moving up 2nd.
I'm going to throw this out there to you. You put out the target number of laps, 50. We're going to be going back green somewhere within the range of possibly 52, 53 laps to go. So are you saying that if they save 50 laps is about the furthest they can go, or do you see them being able to save about 2-3 laps here and not having to pit again.
Oh, they easily can save 2 to 3 laps if they can stay in the draft, not push their cars hard into the corners. But these machines, you're almost constantly on the throttle, and it's really hard to save fuel without letting off just here and there, trying to get as much fuel as you can saved. I think the one car that we can't see that can save it is Jason Brophy if he gets as large of a lead as he's been getting.
Good point there. It looks like, I don't know if there was a penalty that was issued to Cohen Evans or not, or if he just had damage from the contact between himself and Andrew Wood, but he's actually taken his car back behind the wall. So that puts him back in the wall, or back behind the wall. Andrew Wood has effectively taken his car behind the wall. He scored 4 laps down. Also out of the race, the 15 of Justin Morton. Don't know what happened with him. My guess is he's been having some kind of issues because he had a long pit stop back on the first caution, and now he's 13 laps down and looks like he is effectively out of this race. So it's really down now to 12 drivers to settle it out for what's going to be somewhere around 50 laps to go.
I was just watching. So after the accident with Cohen Evans and Andrew Wood, Cohen Evans somehow got loose and smashed his car into the wall into turn 3. One of the more bizarre accidents, and that's why his race is done.
If we can quickly go back and see what happened to the 17, because it is strange, because I didn't see a whole lot of contact between himself and Andrew Wood that would have put him behind the wall.
I believe it was on lap 77 going into turn number 3. His car just looked like he touched the apron or something, and his car just snapped on him.
There it was right here. Oh yeah, he got his car down there on the apron. Almost wondering though, it almost looks to me, and I might be reading this wrong, but it almost looks to me like he might have been told that he was to park the car, and that was his way of possibly parking it, because he let it kind of rest up there on the top side of 3 and then got out of the car. So I'm almost wondering if he might have been told to park after the contact between himself and the 32, but that's just speculation.
Yeah,
Not certain if that's official or not.
We'll have to wait until after the race to figure out what exactly happened with that situation, as pace car lights are off. Coming into 3. Brophy's been getting great restarts. Riley Thompson's there in second. We'll see if he's able to keep up with our leader and get a massive run off of turn 2, as it seems to be the story of this race is get a great run for the leader at the start, and second place catches him on the backstretch.
Pretty much. That's what it's been on the last 2 restarts. And we saw Byron Daly get a great run on Brophy and a lot of exchanging for the lead on the last restart. We'll see if Thompson can do the same here, as about a car length and a half gap between the 88 and the 56. Look for Thompson to close it up here going into 3.
Is Thompson going to be able to make the move, or is Daly going to make a move on Thompson? As it looks like they're both going for the leader right now, as they're going to go 3 wide for the lead.
Oh my goodness, they are. That's going to be Daly up on the top side, Brophy in the middle, Thompson on the bottom. Which lane prevails out of 4?
As it looks like Brophy's going to hit the line first, but Thompson's in probably the most dangerous spot, being so low and so close to the apron.
If we're going to try and get back to the throttle sooner, he's going to succeed in doing so. It's now a battle for second, as it's going to be Brophy going down, trying to block Thompson on that inside line.
As you got these 3 battling, you got Quinn and you've got Roberts closing up on them to make it a 5-car battle for the lead.
Danny Roberts running way up there on the high side. Liam Quinn on the bottom in that battle for 4th. As now it looks like Daly's going to try and go to the inside of Thompson for second. Got tight through the center, and Thompson's going to take the spot.
As now they're starting to cycle in line. Well, that was one of the more funner, quick things to watch.
Equally as impressive that they kept it 3 wide all the way from 3 over to 4 in the front straightaway without wrecking each other.
I'm looking back to see what is going on with Nicholas Johnson, because he was starting up in
6th on that restart.
Yeah, he just dropped like a rock. I'm wondering what happened. I'm going back to watch to see if there's any like damage, or if he just got loose somewhere, and why he dropped so much so quick.
A drop back to the 11th position. That is next to last of the cars that are still running.
So it looked like entering turn 3, it looked like Johnston and Gomez got into each other just a little bit. Johnston got himself into the wall just slightly, but he's still able to run, but he is losing time quick on everyone else.
And so the good news for Johnston is he's still running. The bad news is this puts him back to 11th. Andrew Wood is going to finish this race, it looks like officially in 14th. So Johnston's only going to gain at this point in time about 3 points over Andrew Wood, which would put the gap somewhere still between 1 or 2 points between Johnston and Wood heading into Road Atlanta. So he's got to improve a bit on that. And he just dropped back down to 12th. So he is the last car running on the track.
I think the one positive thing for Johnston, though, is that Wood never did lead a lap. So there's that he didn't get that penalty. Didn't get that point. But still, what could have been a great day is now just survival mode and try to get the most points as you can.
Only 2 drivers so far today have led laps. Brophy, of course, the most, and Byron Daly's led, I think, 2 or 3 when he was just barely able to get Brophy at the line when they were having that exchange on the restart before this past one. So, yeah, those are the only 2 that have led laps up to this point. So for Johnston, not going to have any bonus points to have to deal with between himself and Wood.
Moving back up front for the battle with second, Riley Thompson and Danny Roberts were so close. They practically were bump drafting on the front stretch this past lap. They are getting right on top of one another as Thompson's trying to be going for second. But he doesn't really have the momentum to get second just yet.
I know that a lot of these lap times we're seeing, a lot of that is draft coming into play, but Danny Roberts is running some lap times somewhat similar to leader Jason Brophy, so it almost makes me wonder if he got up to second place, what kind of a battle we might have between the 88 and the 41.
I don't know, we're going to have to wait and see. As I'm super surprised, the one machine, after that horrendous wreck, bringing out our first caution of the day, he's up to 7th. Just pushing along as much as he can. That one machine is still going.
Absolutely. Bommersbach brought out the first caution of the day, a solo car spin off of turn 2, but in the 7th spot, still on the lead lap, and running ahead of a lot of drivers that he was around coming into this race. As far as the points are concerned, Cohen Evans out of the race. Cristobal Valenzuela right now running back in 10th, so still going to maintain a good position in the points out of what could have been a really bad day.
Yeah, and if he stays in the position that he's in right now, he's going to be gaining points on the top 3 in points. So this is fantastic for him, and hopefully he can get more positions and get closer, just in points-wise, to the top 3.
I feel bad for Jason Brophy because credit him, he's had a strong car all day, but most of the focus today has been on the battle for second. That's where the most fun has been, is you got 3 drivers right now you could throw a blanket over with Daly, Thompson, and Roberts.
I mean, it seems like our usual thing of we get 10 laps into a run and Brophy's already a second half ahead of everyone else because they're battling each other.
Remember 2 weeks ago, Brophy got turned coming off of turn 2 on the final lap. If this maintains the way it is, he's going to look in his rearview mirror and see nobody there with an opportunity to turn him.
Yeah, the only part of the track he really needs to worry about is getting on pit road, or right now, that bump off turn 2.
If you're Brophy, I mean, I understand that this is definitely a momentum track, and the way that these cars work is very much based off of draft and off of momentum. But if you're Brophy out in front there, is there any way having a 2nd and 8/10 gap that you can maybe manage a little bit of fuel?
Oh, well, you can easily manage just a little bit of fuel. I mean, you can get a pretty much 2-second gap and then basically drop all the way down to about a second and then gain more. I mean, he's been consistently pulling away from these guys that are battling side by side constantly. So he can easily save and then pull away as much as he wants.
With the timing of that last caution, it put everybody at least within an opportunity window to be able to make it the rest of the way on fuel. They have to save a little bit, about 2 to 3 laps to be able to completely make it the entire way here, barring another caution coming out. So for some of these guys towards the back, probably they're saving, but the question is, what about these guys up at the front?
I think you got to look at Danny Roberts. I mean, he's been staying and third in line in this cluster for second place. And so he's been just getting the draft as much as everyone else. I mean, he's getting the best draft that he possibly can get. So he's saving fuel just by staying in the draft. He'll let off slightly if he gets too close to Thompson. So I think Danny Roberts is probably in the best position if just based on the draft, if the draft's helping with saving fuel. And if he can just stay in this position until about 30 laps to go and then finally make his move.
Got a spin off of 2. It's Bommersbach again in the 1, and this looks like this is going to maybe be the end of the day for that car. No caution.
What could have been a day where he was going to gain points in the top 3. He loses that spot. Nicholas Johnston now is in front of the 1 machine, so he is not going to be gaining any points on really the top 3.
Kite Bommersbach, boy, turn 2 again. Second time today. The first time brought out a caution. This time, not so lucky. And it looks like that is pretty much going to put the 1 car finishing this race in the 12th position as he hit that inside wall a ton this time.
Yeah, the inside wall is deadly. Like I was saying, I think it's a lot easier to hit the outside wall just based on how he was spinning that first time around. Because when you're hitting that inside wall, you're not trying to spin out really. Your car just launches at full speed into the inside wall.
You know, we've been documenting all of these guys up here towards the front of the field, but sometimes it's just about staying out there running all the laps and you get yourself a good finish. Look at some of these names we got just outside of the top 5. Eric Gonzalez there in the 42 has been very consistently up inside of the top 10 here since around the midway point of this race. Rodrigo Munoz, who had that scare when Andrew Wood almost went into his windshield, right now running in 7th. And Cristobal Valenzuela, good run there for that 8th place machine, the number 3, who comes into this race tied for 7th in the points, will probably take 7th in the standings after today, as Connor Horn did not race in this event. So some pretty good runs for some of these guys. And Ryan Heater there as well. Good run for the 77 in that 9th position.
Yeah, Heater starting second to last. And now he's up to 9th. I mean, getting 10 positions. Tied with our biggest mover of the race with Nicholas Johnston. So a great run for him fully. And then we got also Evan Adams finishing up our top 10. He started in 16th and now is up to 10th.
He's in a potential battle here for 10th place. Nicholas Johnston trying to close in on him. So, we had 20 drivers start this race. A lot of big names that were up at the front getting caught up in incidents here today. And so a lot of names that we saw outside the top 10 the first half of the race now look like they may be in line for top 10 finishes here in the second half of the race. As this next time by, 30 laps to go for Jason Brophy, who continues to grow his gap. It's now nearing 3 seconds.
Yeah, when we were talking about saving fuel and fuel strategy, Brophy really didn't hear that because he's just been clocking some extremely quick lap times and has just been pulling away from this pack of 3 this whole entire time. And this pack of 3 has just been staying in line this whole entire time. So they're using the draft the best as they can, but they're still not as fast as this 88 machine.
Right here, we got Daly running the top, Thompson running about a half groove lower, and then Danny Roberts all the way to the bottom. They'll use the draft on the straightaway, but it looks like everybody has their own agenda of getting clean air with a different line in the corners. We talk about drivers trying to save fuel and everything, and I can't help but think of Liam Quinn trying to do some fuel strategy 2 weeks ago at Michigan. He's riding at the tail end of this group of 3 as well. I don't know if he's close enough to be able to get a sniff of draft to be able to help him fuel saving in that regard, but you got to kind of think maybe he's one of those drivers that would try saving fuel and trying to do some fuel strategy work here, as opposed to these other guys who, for the moment, don't really look like they're saving.
I mean, I was saying the window is between 50 to 55, and honestly, I feel like every single car that came into the pits can make it to the end here. And Jason Brophy's just been dominant all race long as our 11 cars running and this race so far still running.
Let's put it this way. Even if they can't make it on fuel, I think the one thing that Brophy does not want to see is a caution, because that is the only thing that has made anyone have a shot at taking the race lead away from him. Ever since getting the restart and pulling away, nobody has been able to touch him. So I think that if he can just maintain this gap, even if it did come down to pit stops, which you said you don't think that's going to be the case, I think right now he just wants to see it go green to the end.
Well, I mean, even if there is a caution, he does not want to have a green white checkered. That is probably the worst case scenario for Jason Brophy, because if there's at least 10 laps, he should get the lead back. He's been looking very dominant with at least 10 laps to go. He'll have at least a second lead on everyone else by then. But if it's a green white checkered, we've been seeing him have to battle cars for about 3 to 4 laps before he finally clears everyone.
Danny Roberts trying to get a run there out of turn 2 on Riley Thompson. That's for the 3rd position. You see Thompson move down there, take away the air off the nose. That got Danny Roberts a little tight through 4 as it drifted up the track. And that's something we're going to see a little bit of here, I think, especially with this pack, is drivers kind of trying to take away each other's line to be able to hold on to their positions.
By them doing that, though, it's allowing Liam Quinn to finally get into this battle, really. And Quinn's now going to be able to make some moves because his car is just looking very good when he's in the draft.
Tell you what, too, I mean, Liam Quinn, regardless of where he finishes in this race up inside the top 5, he's going to gain some very valuable points in the standings as well. Andrew Wood and Nicholas Johnson were the 2 that he was kind of trying to run down with Mitch Welker not in the race. Wood's out of the race in 14th, Johnston back in 10th, so Liam Quinn's going to gain some spots here and gain some points and maybe be down to around single digits.
Someone feels like they aren't going to make it, as Brophy is going to give up the lead and come into the pits now.
Wow, 23 to go, and Brophy on pit lane. And so this is what we would call the money stop, if indeed everybody's going to have to make one more pit stop before the conclusion of this race. He went 34 laps on that tank of fuel.
Brian Daly, he's now going to be coming in, which is going to give the lead to Danny Roberts, who's been staying 3rd in line. Like I said, he possibly could be saving fuel for this, as another machine is going to be coming to the pits as well.
Eric Gonzalez.
So all these cars that really have been in front of the pack or have been by themselves are starting to come in. Did Danny Roberts save enough fuel, and is he going to be able to just stay out there and get the win, or is he going to have to come in as well?
We've talked about turn 2 being a portion of the track that has really hurt drivers. Well, pit road can be just as treacherous, having to get that car down to, I believe it's 45 miles per hour pit speed. So if someone ends up speeding on pit road, that could end their day at a chance at a top 10.
Also getting onto the access road. This is the first time we're going to be seeing cars on green flag stops coming in and using the access road, which is very slick. Once you get slow down, come on the access road at turn 3, you're losing a ton of time because of that. As Danny Roberts still in the lead, Riley Thompson's in 3rd, Riley Thompson's 2nd, Liam Quinn in 3rd. Roberto Munoz, he's in 4th. Who would have thought? I mean, these cars are running slow enough back here that they could have been saving fuel just to try to get the best position they can.
Absolutely. I mean, if you look here in terms of Danny Roberts, Riley Thompson, they were running 2nd and 3rd in line of that 2nd group. So an opportunity to be in the draft to save some fuel there. Question was, how much did Danny Roberts manage to save when he was the 3rd car in line?
Well, Jason Brophy is still a lap down, and that last lap he ran a 25.0, one of the fastest laps of the day. He is screaming. Well, Danny Roberts is running a 26.0, so it's a 2nd difference from our leader to our fastest car that's a lap down, which is Jason Brophy.
Yeah, the question is, though, if Danny Roberts can make it on fuel, being a lap down and 17 laps to go, I don't know if Brophy's got enough time, even with the lightning fast lap times he's putting down, if he's got enough time to be able to get up there and take that lead away again.
No, right now it is all fuel strategy. If Danny Roberts can save the fuel, he's got this. If not, I don't know who's going to survive, because Danny Roberts was, like I was saying, 3rd in line. He was able to save as much fuel as possible. Liam Quinn, he was close to the draft. I don't think he was close enough, though, to be saving up fuel. Riley Thompson was 2nd in line with that group that was in 2nd, so he was saving a little bit. But did they save enough? That's really the question, as these laps are ticking down, and we are 15 laps to go.
Jason Brophy just there making a pass on Rodrigo Munoz, running in the 4th position, so he's got 3 more cars to pass before he can get himself even back on the lead lap. There you see Roberts heading into turn 3, and I believe that Brophy was coming off turn 2, so it's only about a straightaway between the leader and Brophy.
The problem is that there is not, even if Brophy's running a second faster than our leader, there is not enough time for him to go and get his lap back and come back around to even get the lead.
Oh,
As
we
we're
got
seeing the car
another
go around.
spinner!
Riley Thompson going to be coming off that bump of turn 2, and he's going to be staying off the track. There is no caution, but his race is done because of that.
The opening there between the two walls in the inside infield grass, that was a battle for the second position between himself and Liam Quinn, and the 5th time today a driver has had issues with that turn 2 exit.
As the times are clicking down in laps as well. You know, right now we've got some cars that you never saw in the top 5, but are still showing promise. That's Roberto Munoz. He's up to 3rd now. Venezuela, he's up to 4th. Heater, he's up to 5th. I mean, these guys are not battling for the lead, but they're saving fuel. They're trying to make it last all the way to the end.
And even despite the early issues he had back on that last restart when he fell back to 12th place, Nicholas Johnston, after all that's gone on here on this last green flag run, he's now up to 6th. 12 laps to go. Liam Quinn now is the driver we got to wonder about. Can he make it on fuel?
Liam Quinn was the man we questioned all at Michigan. Could he make it to the end? Did he have enough fuel? And here we are again, another race, another question. Can he make it, or does he have to come in and pit?
With Danny Roberts pitting, we should document that Jason Brophy did pass Liam Quinn, as did the 06 of Byron Daly. So both of them are back on the lead lap.
As we
You can visibly see he is backing his corners down here, trying to save fuel, talking about the 4 of Liam Quinn.
I mean, he's got 10 laps, coming to 9 laps to go. So he can let up, but I think once you see that Brophy or some of these other guys are about 5 seconds, you got to pick up the speed. You can't continuously try to save, but Quinn's trying to pull off a miracle here. As I thought Danny Roberts was going to be the car to do it, but I think Quinn might have been able to save more fuel by staying just close enough to get the draft, and also save by letting off enough to save enough fuel for the end here.
The way that the numbers look right now, if Liam Quinn can make it, he will have gone 56 laps on 1 tank of fuel. And I'm looking at the interval between himself and Jason Brophy, who really is the guy that we're watching right now, chopping his way through the field. About 22.5 seconds separation from the leader back to 6th place, where that 88 is running.
The lap times are still a second difference. It's crazy how fast Brophy is running right now, but he needs to run as fast as possible if he's ever going to have a chance here.
Right now, if Quinn is at least close to making it, I back down just maybe a little bit more, because if Brophy's only gaining about a second a lap and you've got 7 laps to go, I mean, right now, the way that's projected, Brophy's got to cut it down by 3 seconds a lap, and I just don't see that happening.
No, hey, you can easily save enough fuel by just letting off a little bit more here and there.
Quinn running right down on the bottom, making the track as short as possible. He's now fought his way up to 5th. He just got around Evan Adams, and he's got just a little ways behind him Byron Daly, now going around for 4th on Nicholas Johnston. So he is up in the top 5. Question is, does he have enough time to reel in the top 3?
I think Quinn's kind of put all his chips in. This is it. If he runs out, he runs out. But he's got to continuously try to save.
The cars behind him are saving as well. As a matter of fact, Rodrigo Munoz is coming to pit road. He cannot make it. He is going to pit. So now the closest gap from Liam Quinn back to his next competitor is Cristobal Valenzuela, who is also saving about 4.6 seconds back.
And then the car that's going to be coming third is going to be Jason Brophy. Or is it going to be Daly, as those two are battling back and forth?
Ryan Ryan's Heater rather, could not make it on fuel. We just saw him coming to pit lane. So it's all about Liam Quinn with 3 laps to go. Does he have enough in the tank? I think at this point, he's made his bet. He's going to have to line it. He's either going to have to try and coast it across the line or run out of fuel trying. Evan Adams in the 59 is not going to make it on fuel. He's coming to pit road.
Venezuela, he is not going to make it either. It is now just Quinn at this point.
Between himself and now the new second place car, which is Byron Daly, is about little less than 20 seconds and 2 laps remaining. White flag will be in the air. This time around, can Liam Quinn pull it off?
Liam Quinn, here we go. White flag. Does he have enough? Now, the leaders aren't going to catch him. He could easily just let it off as much as he needs here and just to coast it around the corner. And he'll be fine right now as he is now coming off of turn number 2, now entering turn number 3.
He could coast it from there, I think. 19 seconds in hand back to second place. Fuel strategy works to perfection. 4 different winners in the first 4 races. Liam Quinn wins at Homestead.
And now it's going to be the battle for second, as it looks like Daly's going to be getting it, as Brophy is going to be finishing third. Another chance for Brophy to win, but it's going to come in heartbreak. As I think the biggest shock has got to be the person who finishes 4th. That's going to be Nicholas Johnston.
Yeah, he was able to make it on fuel as well. He and Quinn were the only 2 that were able to go 56 laps on that tank of fuel, and Johnston... Boy, we were talking about like the minimal points gap there was going to be between himself and Wood going into next week. Nope, it's going to be a big one now.
Oh, it's going to be massive now. Everyone's going to have to try to make every single race. Nicholas Johnston, his car was not happy at the end just due to him hitting the wall, but him able to save fuel, make it all the way to the end. He got a top 5 finish out of it.
Well, I don't know just how much further Liam Quinn could have gone, but he's got enough fuel to do burnouts here on the front straightaway, so he saved a lot more than we expected.
Yeah, I mean, compared to the laps that him and the leader were running, he was saving something for sure. Wow, that was a fuel strategy run that we knew was possible, and Quinn did it. He pulled the strategy out.
That is a great win for a guy that came into this race 4th in the point standings. Was 19 points out of the points lead, and despite Nicholas Johnston finishing in 4th, Liam Quinn's going to gain some very valuable points in the standings, and as mentioned, 4 races, 4 different winners here to start out the season. But as you mentioned, a tough break there for Jason Brophy. Looked like everything was going his way, but then had to come to pit road, could not make it on fuel. And I wonder if there's any of those guys out there that are thinking, man, why didn't I try saving when we started off that last restart? Because we saw that it was definitely possible. 2 drivers made it 55 laps, 56 laps on fuel.
I think it was the right place, the right time. I mean, Nicholas Johnston, yes, he saved enough fuel to make it to the end, but he did get passed by the 2 cars that pitted about 20 laps before the end of the race. While Liam Quinn, he was in 4th. He was in 5th. He was 4th in line with that pack that was for second place. And he was able to just save fuel, run behind these guys, not fully push his car. And then he had such a huge lead that he was able to let off and save as much fuel as he needed to just do a couple burnouts at the end and win the race.
We're waiting to see if we can get any post-race interviews, but while we're waiting for that, we'll go down the rest of the finishing results. Eric Gonzalez couldn't make it on fuel, but he was still able, after the green flag pit stop, to finish in the top 5. A great run for him. Danny Roberts going to finish the day out in 6th. Rodrigo Munoz in 7th. I mean, all these guys just at least kept their cars clean, kept their cars in the lead lap, and they get top 10s as a result. Valenzuela, Evan Adams, and Ryan Heater. I mean, great job for all of them. And then, of course, a lot of drivers got bit by turn 2, and one of them was Riley Thompson. In a battle for second in the closing stages, got into the wall after spinning off of 2, finishes 11th. 2 times Kite Bommersbach got spun off of turn 2, finishes in 12th. Cohen Evans 13th. Andrew Wood up in the air out of turn 4, finishes 14th. Justin Morton in 15th. We had Robert Hall and Will Roberts have a wreck off of 2. They finished 16th and 17th. Mike Hurley had a problem off of turn 2. I feel like a broken record right now. 18th is where he finished, and then Scott Taylor and John Martin were the last drivers to finish this race. But boy, I mean, I was shocked the fact that turn 2 claims so many victims, but this really, to be honest, was, I think, maybe the best fuel strategy race we've had for a speedway race this season.
Oh yeah, I mean, we thought Michigan was a possible chance to see fuel strategy, and it just didn't work out in Liam Quinn's factors and fates, and it worked out this time. I'm also shocked on how much turn 2 destroyed so many cars. They were warned at the drivers' meeting, this bump is dangerous, and it showed during this race as another corner that just ate up cars. It feels like, last at Michigan, it was the pit roads that destroyed the cars. At Laguna Seca, it was turn 6. And here it was turn 2 that just ate up so many cars.
Well, I do believe that only 3 drivers led this race, and they all finished in the top 3. And we're going to talk to one of them right now, bring in second place finishing Byron Daly. Aaron, it's Sam and Seth up here in the Flatout Racing Network studios. You got us?
Yes, I do.
Man, first off, let's go back to that restart where you were in the second position behind the 88. I mean, you and he had quite an exchange there for the race lead. How long were you able to do that before the tires heating up finally settled in and you weren't able to make those moves anymore?
Pretty much when you saw it, it was game over. I had honestly, I had one shot to get it done and failed at it, and I tried over and over again, and all I did was mess up the right front tire. Once Jason kind of figured out what I was trying to do to save it and stay close to him, it was game over.
See, the eventual race winner was able to make it the entire last green flag run on fuel. Was there any point that you were maybe thinking about strategizing on fuel, or were you thinking that nobody was going to be able to make it without having to make one more pit stop?
Well, I looked at it and I thought you needed about 3 gallons to make it or something like that. But I didn't think anybody was going to be able to make it. But I guess the pace backing down as much as it did and all that stuff, that Liam was able to do it. And I feel so unwise for not trying it. But I thought my strategy of trying to just out pit cycle the leader was going to work, and it seemed like it was going well for a while there. But I wasn't smart enough to think of that strategy, so congrats to Liam on that.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed like it was the battle between you two. I mean, there's the 88 and the 06 constantly throughout the whole entire race. At the end there, did you feel like tires was the key to beat out your competitors, besides the fact that we saw a fuel strategy win this race?
Well, I think a lot of it had to do with just being in clean air and then yes, managing your tires. Like if you weren't in clean air, managing your tires was going to get you to the front, and if you were in clean air, you just need to make sure you stay there. And during that pit cycle, I thought the traffic on the racetrack would help me because I had been running in traffic all day, so I didn't know how Jason was going to do once he got to those guys, and it helped for sure. Like, unfortunately, it wasn't a battle for the win, but at the end of the day, like it was a tough race. It was a lot of fun, and we'll take second out of it.
Absolutely. First start of the season, you come up with a runner-up finish, a great performance, and we're going to now turn the microphone over. Let's do any shout-outs you'd like to do.
Just thanks to you guys for broadcasting. Thanks for Fuel for putting on the league. It's always fun to do, and see you guys next week.
All right, absolutely. Good luck next week at Road Atlanta.
Thank you.
And let's bring in the race winner, Liam Quinn. Liam, a lot of drivers thought it couldn't be done, but you were able to make it 56 laps on that last green flag run for your first win of the season. I mean, was there any point during that run that you were thinking, maybe I can't make it on fuel?
I was confident. I had my delta, like what I needed to hit. So it was more of a case if the guys ahead of me could make it. I think Riley might have, but obviously he lost it. I'm surprised that the guys didn't try it, even like a Hail Mary at the end. But I'm glad no one did. I think only Nick is the one who made it.
He was. You were the only two that actually went that entire run without making a pit stop. We saw 2 weeks ago you trying to pull off fuel strategy at Michigan. What was the difference between Michigan and here at Homestead? Was it easier? Was it about the same in terms of fuel saving between those two tracks?
I think with Michigan, you're relying on traffic to save the fuel. So you're relying on swap drafting and just saving in a pack. Whereas at Homestead, you're more relying on just hitting your numbers. So because you're more grid limited here, you're lifting regardless. So if you can save the time on entry, you can really save as much as you can.
Yeah, Liam, it looked like you were side by side from like the start of the race until about that end point where you finally had to pull out the fuel strategy. Did you feel like being side by side so much at the beginning of this race, did you think that turn 2 was going to eat you up like we saw so many other cars get eaten up?
Came close, yeah. I'm not gonna lie, it came close. I didn't really like the low line that much. I tried it a couple of times, and both times it really bit me. So I was trying to stay as high as possible, and I think a couple of guys figured that out and blocked it quite high. So I'd fall back when that happened, but there's plenty of space here. It's kind of like a auto club style, tons of room, so you can always make room.
You came into this race fourth in the point stands. This is certainly going to put you right up there, possibly into the top 3 with this win here tonight. And we are going to turn the microphone over to you to do some shout outs here.
Yeah, I'll keep it short and sweet. I'll just shout out to my teammate Drew, Andrew Z. Woods, and also like the organisers here, so Evan, Will, the rest of the admin team.
All right, that's Liam Quinn. He pulls off the ultimate fuel strategy here tonight for a win at Homestead. Hopefully he can carry this momentum into next week at Road Atlanta.
Yeah, cheers.
All right, and we do not have our third place finisher, Jason Brophy, on standby, so that is going to conclude our coverage here this evening from Homestead. And I think we basically covered it before, though, Sam. I think this definitely was one of the more exciting fuel strategy races that we've had so far this season. I mean, Michigan came close, but it wasn't nearly as close as it was here today.
Yeah, it really wasn't. I mean, this whole entire race was so tricky for these drivers. It wasn't the setup they originally thought they were going to be using. And then with turn 2 being so deadly for a lot of these cars, it really, I didn't know if it was going to come down to fuel strategy, but it was awesome to watch Liam Quinn, his second try at fuel strategy, and it worked out this time.
Our third speedway race is in the books. Next week, we're going to have our second road course race of the season. And of course, our first one was Laguna Seca, and that was anything but dull. So it'll be interesting to see what's going to be brought to the table next week when these drivers will be taking to Road Atlanta, the road course configuration at the Atlanta Motor Speedway. Hope you guys will be tuning in for that. That will be next Thursday night. But Sam, once again, thank you for joining me here this evening.
Oh, it's always a pleasure.
All right, and thank you to everybody that tuned in to tonight's broadcast. We will see you guys next week. For Sam,